That also makes for good podcasting. Who doesn't love listening to people eat?
That's going to be another one of my podcasts, just me eating.
I will not listen to that one. I'm going to pass on that. Thank you, though. Welcome to Stargatezing, a Stargate gazing podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mary, and this is my other host, Kathy.
Hello, I'm Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Mary.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. It's been a long week, but we're through it.
It has been a long week.
Yeah.
And it is Friday that we're recording this on, and I'm happy it is Friday.
Me too. Or as they say, some people, Friday.
Well, those people are the worst.
They are. I like to go with a pun myself of F-R-Y-D-A-Y, where you eat fried food while watching Futurama.
Oh, yeah. I could get on board with that one, I think.
Yeah.
Much better than I could get on board with Fry. Yay.
Fair.
I don't normally like portmanteaus. I don't know why I don't like that one. But no, that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Now I want some French fries, though.
That would be great.
I'm having pizza after this, though, so I'll just have to...
Oh my god.
I'll have to, yeah.
I'll
have to settle for that. Not that it's really settling, because it's my favorite food, so I'm not settling at all, but
glorious.
Now I'm hungry.
Do you already have your toppings picked out?
No, I'm just going to leave that up to Jeff to pick out, and it will magically appear right around the time that we're probably done recording this.
Olives, right?
That's grounds for divorce.
Okay.
No
you
olives.
Probably won't.
If he ordered a pizza, if I told him that I'd been thinking about pizza all day, and then he ordered a pizza and it showed up and it was just all covered in olives, I would literally just walk out of the house and never come back. He knows better by now. That would for sure be grounds for divorce.
That is fair. I like olives, but if somebody showed up with a whole pepperoni pizza, that's probably how I would go too.
Oh, see, that would be amazing. I'd be fine with that. I just don't like tasting bile on my food, and that's what olives taste like, so that's why I don't like olives.
I must love the taste of bile then.
Because you're gross and weird.
That is true.
So instead of talking about pizza, I suppose we should talk about this episode of Stargate that we watched.
We should.
What was it called again? I have already forgotten.
It was called Emancipation.
Ah, yes, right. And this was season 1, episode 4.
Right.
Technically, if we're going by DVD numbering, right?
Yes. As we should. I don't know why, but we should.
Well, aren't you watching DVDs now too?
I am watching DVDs.
Okay,
yeah.
well then, yeah. We're both watching the DVDs, so that makes sense to go by that numbering system.
In fact, this particular DVD menu, when it comes on, but it does its little opening because it has. I don't know if this is still true because I don't buy a lot of DVDs, but a lot of DVDs when they first started being a thing. Oh, okay, fair. But a lot of them, when the DVDs first started becoming popular, had these really elaborate, opening sequences to get to the menu.
I forgot about those.
So this one's kind of long, but not, crazy like some of them. But, it goes and, pans into the Stargate and the Stargate opens, and then somebody commands, enter the Stargate.
Oh, weird. I don't actually, I don't have a landing screen like that. I just go into our computer and just launch the episode from there.
But yeah, so I was like, oh, I guess I will enter the Stargate. All right.
Did it make any fun noises?
I mean, there were effects, and I think it made a noise, but now I can't remember.
Oh, I always like your sound effects. I was hoping that you'd do.
Oh, sorry.
That wasn't one. That was the opposite of a sound effect. That was silence.
Sometimes silence is loud, okay?
It's true. So true.
We opened this episode with Carter coming out the Stargate onto a planet to join the rest of SG-1, who are kind of surveying a little bit of ruins near the gate. They don't know who made that, or, who built this temple that long ago was destroyed, is what they surmise. And they're hoping that those people are long gone and won't come back to destroy them too.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. And then while they're doing that, they start to hear in the distance some dogs. It is soon apparent that there is a young man being chased by a pack of dogs, which is pretty scary. I don't know. Just the thought of it. I don't know.
I would rather not be chased by a pack of dogs, especially having been bitten by a dog while I was out running once. Having 4 dogs coming after me would be even more scary than that was.
Yeah, so this young man runs, as you would. And
Indeed.
the dogs do catch up to him, unfortunately, and they start tearing at his clothes. But fortunately, since SG-1 saw them, they're coming upon them, and O'Neill pulls his gun out and shoots it in the air, scaring off the dogs.
Those dogs, though, were so cute and happy looking. Like, they obviously, dubbed in the angry dog noises, because if you actually looked at them, the dogs were so happy and just having so much fun to be doing their job of acting and playing with this guy that I found that distractingly adorable.
Aww, that is adorable.
It was great. I love dogs, despite having been bitten by one. I think they're great.
Yeah. So they approach one another, and after a very small moment, it becomes apparent we are all speaking English this episode with no questions.
I made a note on that one too.
Yeah.
Why would they all speak English?
I don't know, but I'm willing to go with it. Like, if they're just gonna commit to one, that's cool.
We probably shouldn't bring it up every time, because I think this actually happens a lot, so it'll get old if we're always harping on it when they're speaking English on other planets.
We could change it to Kathy and Mary complain about Stargate's language issues for hours on end.
I don't know that would be a very compelling.
Maybe not. So they...
I almost spit my beer out my nose. It's all good.
Delicious.
Don't mind me sniffling. It's not COVID. It's beer.
At least you're doing this over a recording, and you're not sniffling at people.
No, I am not in the same room sniffling at you or anybody else for that matter.
So they introduce one another. Jack and Daniel introduce themselves to this kid whose name is Abu. Mm-hmm. And I know he introduces himself right off the bat, but the entire episode, it took till near the end before I realized that was his name. Like, I just didn't catch it. And then at the end, I was like, oh, okay. So I changed it in my talking, but
I did get his name, but I didn't get the name for anybody else till the end of the episode. So
same.
Yeah.
So he introduces himself as his people as the Shavadai. Mm-hmm. And he says they're the people of the steppe. SG-1 sort of does the little, dancing around where they're from. They're like, oh, we're from far away. And he's like, I forget what he said, but he's like, oh, over at this group. And they're like, oh, no, further.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he said, are you from the people of the river? And they're like, right. No, beyond that.
Yeah, and I think it was the Sea of Avogai or something.
I have no idea what the word is. I actually have in my note that he said something unintelligible, and that O'Neill is like, sure. And that's as much of that conversation as I got.
It reminded me of Sliders, where they always pretended they were from Canada when they were dropped into a situation where it was not good for them to reveal who they were and what they were doing.
I love that show too.
I did too. It was a fun show. They're talking, and Carter and Teal'c come up to join them all, and they introduce Teal'c, and then they introduce Dr. Carter, and the kid turns around and realizes Carter's a woman.
Blame it all on yourself, 'cause she's always a woman to me.
Scandalous.
And he backs away from her. He really can't even deal. He just can't. He doesn't look at her. He's like, this is a woman. Oh my God. And then some other folks approach too. He suddenly is telling them to take Carter and get out of there. But yeah, the others appear, and they also see Carter, And then basically it looks like they're about to take SG1 prisoner when we go to credits.
Yes. So we get our opening credits and then return back to the scene on the planet. O'Neill fires his gun in the air and waves it around as if trying to imply that they've got better weapons than the other guys, so the other guys should be standing down. And then Abu's dad comes riding up wearing a distractingly bad wig and asks why Abu didn't come back. And Abu mentions that he was being chased by the dogs and that SG-1 saved him. So Dad here wants to know why all of his men have their weapons drawn, and the warriors say that it's because they have a woman with them. So Dad Leader asks what kind of weapons SG-1 has, and when Sam is the one that dares to actually answer this question, he says, "She speaks, she dies." Abu insists that they can't kill SG-1 because SG-1 just saved his life. So Carter and Dad Leader have a staring contest for a few minutes. And then he says that since a woman saved a life, hers cannot be taken. And he says that they will be his guests so that he can teach them their ways. And Sam wants to just pick up their stuff and leave and go back to Earth since she is still not sure why it is that they're so upset about her presence. But here it's actually Daniel that insists, nope, we really need to stay and study this ancient culture up close.
Daniel, I think he just doesn't get it because he's not the one they're freaking out about.
Right.
And
I feel like from a female perspective, I can totally understand why she just wanted a piece out of there. And I would want to do the exact same thing in her situation.
Yeah. Ugh. They enter the camp of the folks they've just met.
The Shabadai.
The Shabadai. You can see a woman peek out and smile. She's very excited to see them return. You do see before she comes out, as she's coming out, she covers her face to go greet them. There are more women who are all dressed up, basically covered from head to toe, that also come out. Everyone's really happy to see them return.
It made me wonder where Abu was supposed to have been because everyone is like shouting his name and so happy to see him back. But he was like just outside of town being chased by these dogs. He wasn't that far, so it made me really curious about the backstory that they never actually addressed.
Yeah, like did they know he was being chased by dogs?
Right? Did he just like run off with dogs after him, and they're like, oh, well, I guess he's gone forever? Or had he actually been gone like on a long journey and was just returning home when he met the dogs? We never really find out.
Maybe the folks who came upon them were the search party sent out to look for him or something.
Yeah, we don't even know that much. Were they a search party looking for him, or were they just like on patrol, or what? They never go into any of that.
No. So then we are inside one of the tents, and Daniel starts to give what he surmises is the background of these folks, like how they got here. He said they were basically Mongols or descended of that, and they said that those particular Mongols settled in Persian China and adapted to the local culture, except for the Shagatai, who kept their nomadic lifestyle, and he is guessing that the Shavadai are descendants of those folks brought through the Stargate. Yeah,
and he mentioned here that these could be descendants of Genghis Khan and sharing his lifestyle, essentially, a nomadic lifestyle that had gone extinct like 900 years ago. Which, first of all, it bothered me that he said Genghis Khan when he's supposed to be an anthropologist, and it's generally accepted that it's Genghis Khan. But maybe that's actually more recent research than was actually happening when this was filmed. But also, he sounded like super in awe of the fact that this could be the culture of Genghis Khan, even though Genghis Khan was responsible for like 40 million deaths. And personally, I probably wouldn't be as excited to meet a culture that was inspired by someone who was responsible for that many deaths.
Yeah. I also... The people they met on Abydos, for instance, were taken from Earth through the Stargate thousands and thousands of years ago, whereas the people that they're talking about, that time period is way later than that. So either he's not correct in his guessing, or the Stargate wasn't necessarily always buried, or they got people from somewhere else and brought them there later. I don't know, but...
Right, because we've been getting that idea all along that the gate was it's debate whether the gate is 10,000 years old, or if we're going by my carbon dating issues, then it had to have been buried for 10,000 years, and they would have been dating it based on the dead stuff buried around it. But yeah, in either case, that society is way younger than 10,000 years old.
Yeah. So I mean, he's just going off the cuff. He's not like an expert in this culture, so it might just be his guess, and we don't know. But I feel like he's the expert in this area, so I'm not sure if we're supposed to just take what he says as truth when he's saying anything.
Right. Can I go on a fun tangent about another fun tangent about Genghis Khan?
Yes.
Well, I think it's fun, but I'm also a nerd, so maybe no one else cares. But did you know that 10% of the men living within the borders of the former Mongol Empire are descended from Genghis Khan based on a Y chromosome study?
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And so that actually equates to about 0.5% of the men in the world, which means that 1 in 200 men in the entire world, 16 million men total, are directly descended from Genghis Khan by way of the Y chromosome. So they have the same Y chromosome, theoretically. They would have inherited down the line from their father and their father and their father, all the way back to Genghis Khan. The extra crazy thing is that not only are there these 16 million men who have a Y chromosome lineage from him, but that doesn't include anybody that might have a female descendant that interrupted that lineage. So we know he has those 1 in 200 or 16 million men total descendants. But really, if you think about all of the female descendants or people that are related to him via a female ancestor, then that number is probably like at least twice as high, if not even higher than that, as far as how many descendants Genghis Khan actually has that are still alive today. And that is just insane.
That's bananas.
Isn't it?
Jeez.
Yeah. That's my fun tangent. You can continue now.
He puts me to shame. I have 0 descendants.
Likewise. I also have 0 descendants. I plan to keep it that way.
I guess it's not a contest.
Right.
And then the old man with the bad wig enters. I did look up his name, which is Mughal, Moughal. Because the whole time I was just calling him old dad or old man.
I was calling him daddy leader.
Ah, nice. So they have a conversation.
I think I also called him progressive daddy in a few places.
He is progressive daddy. That is true. He says it's death for a woman to show her face in public or wear the clothes of a man.
How dare she?
But he also talks about how the old laws will soon no longer serve us. Oh, I actually wrote he's a progressive daddy. And that in the future trade will replace war, and he talks about how they're prepared for it because they've got strong horses and they've got fine wool, and then he says they've got drugs of unheard of power, which piques their interest among the SG-1 team.
He did mean medical drugs, not like
like
like narcotic drugs. By the way, that might be worth clarifying.
I guess.
I mean, the other kind could be fun too, but he was specifically referring to medicine.
Oh, we've got some pretty swell drugs of our own.
They want to know more about the drugs. Carter particularly wanted to see it, or find out more in action, but she's told she's not properly attired, so she must be attired before she can do that. And she's like, no, that's not for me. And not that way, but
pretty much. I mean, you can't blame her.
And Daniel's like, anthropologists do it, and she's like, I'm not an anthropologist. And
I loved her reaction here.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah. No, she's another awesome scientist. So.
Right, exactly.
And but Jack's like, well, today you're an anthropologist. So Carter loses that argument.
So back outside, Sam is brought to another random tent, presumably to get changed.
I called it the lady place.
The lady place. Yes. That's a great name for it. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while Carter is getting changed, Abu is showing the guys off around the village, and he brings them to a man that's got a stab wound to the chest and shows them how clean and well healed the wound looks, and talks about a medication that he had used on it to help in the treatment. And so that is further evidence that these people might be worthwhile to look into trading with this culture if they have advanced medicines that could help us out. They are taken back into another tent where we find Sam, who is very pissed off about the outfit that she has been put in. She's wearing this like really tight looking bodice, full length dress. She has a big headdress on her head and of course a veil, and she is very unhappy to be dressed like that, and is talking about how impractical it is and how hard to move around it is.
Find me an anthropologist that dresses like this, and I will eat this headdress.
We take a look at the men that just came in the tent, and Abu looks completely smitten. Daniel's just standing there, dumbfounded with like his mouth open, looking stunned. Teal'c looks bored, and O'Neill just looks like he's about to burst out laughing as all of this is happening. So Abu quietly says that she is the most beautiful woman that he's ever seen, and then rapidly leaves the tent. And O'Neill says, it's really working for me. And Daniel's like, yeah, it's totally you. That look is you. Daniel goes on to say that they do seem to actually have some helpful medicine that would make it worthwhile to trade with them. And O'Neill tells Samantha that they may want to come back with an all-male team next time to avoid similar issues to what is happening on this visit. Sam is understandably extremely pissed that all the guys now get to go to a party while she has to stay in a yurt all by herself. So the guys leave to go out and have some fun, and O'Neill lingers behind and asks if she's going to be okay. She says that she's a big girl and she's not afraid of the dark, and O'Neill makes sure to emphasize one last time how great she looks in her native uniform. Yeah. It was really pretty. It was pretty cringy.
Yeah.
And I like to hope that at this point they have a pretty good rapport going, because if these are like your new coworkers, then I feel like this has a much creepier vibe than if these are people that she's already been working with for a few months at this point.
Which I think they try to set that up, but it feels problematic since it's so new to us.
Right. Yeah, I have a note on that later, in that they do mention like a past mission that they were on. So that it does seem to indicate that they have been working together for a while at this point.
Yeah.
But this is the first actual exploratory mission that we've seen them on. The only missions that we've seen so far, they're like fighting the Goa'uld and trying to get the people that were kidnapped. So this is our first look at an exploratory mission, so we don't really know what kind of rapport they might have built up with each other yet at this point.
I have more thoughts on that, but I think I will get to them in just a moment. But the other thing that sucks about this is she plays the part and puts on the dumb dress, and she still doesn't get to go see this drug in action.
I know, right? She doesn't get to go see the drug in action, and she doesn't get to go to the fun party either. So it just kind of sucks to be Sam here.
It's the worst. So yeah, poor Carter.
Poor Carter. I would be extremely pissed. And I did appreciate that they at least had, like, she was angry. I appreciated that they at least didn't write into the script that she was like okay with it and sat by demurely. Like, she was really pissed about the whole situation. So I did appreciate that they like gave her that chance to be angry about what was happening.
Yeah. So next we see a scene of the party. There's basically a lot of like drumming and eating around a fire and celebration. But while this is happening, the action is actually happening in the lady tent.
It sounds really bad when you word it that way. Actually, it sounds pretty fun when you word it that way. In either case, it sounds really different from what was actually happening in the lady tent.
Unfortunately, what happened wasn't fun. Carter's asleep, which good for her, get some rest.
Yeah.
But
how she fell asleep with all that drumming going on, I have no idea, but
I don't know. But suddenly there's a knife to her throat and hands are grabbing her and she's taken out of the tent. Like, she's gone. Boop.
Boop. All gone.
Yeah.
Next morning, Daniel comes in to wake her up. He politely averts his eyes, which I thought was nice of him to do. But then when she doesn't answer as he's coming in the tent to let her know that it's time to go, he realizes that there are like all kinds of signs of a struggle and that Sam is nowhere to be found.
And here's the part where I wonder about their level of closeness and comfort, because he's standing outside the tent going, "Doctor, doctor," and that doesn't sound like they're like very close if he's not even calling her Sam or Carter.
Right. And I thought it was interesting that he I've thought this before too, that he always addresses her as doctor rather than by her rank. So it's like him being a scientist only recognizes her scientist side, whereas the military guys are supposed to be calling her by her rank. Why not just call her by whatever? Like, I can't imagine that she's like, Daniel, you call me doctor, and O'Neill and everyone else, you call me by my rank. Like, I know she told the other guys that they should call her by her rank in the last episode, but
she
like,
did introduce herself to Daniel as Dr. Samantha Carter and
okay.
not Colonel, or I mean, not Colonel. That's O'Neill. Captain.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just going by her cue.
Could be.
But
yeah.
it still doesn't seem like they've been on missions together.
Right. Yeah. If they're not even on a first name basis, then yeah, you're right.
So they can't find her. So Carter, though, we find is with Abu, who is the one who kidnapped her. I was a little bit confused because there definitely looked like there were multiple pairs of hands in there grabbing her.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
But it's just this kid.
Yeah.
So again, we don't know a lot about the society. This kid might be super popular and have a lot of friends who are willing to do crazy things with him. So
maybe they're just not actually human, and just how like the Jaffa have that secret hidden pouch. Maybe he has secret hidden arms.
That's right, Daniel. You're wrong. They're not Mongols. They're aliens with secret arms.
Right. Shows what you know, Daniel.
Yeah. God, go back to school.
Seriously.
So she says, you might as well kill me now because she's not going to talk. But he reveals that he kidnapped her because he actually wants to take her to another place and trade her away.
Like you do.
Because ladies are tradable property in this society. He also is like, men are not as tolerant in this other tribe, which why did he even tell her that? That just makes it, I feel like, more motivating for her to get away. Which, by the way, why doesn't she get away from this boy?
Yeah, she should. I mean, I think she was tied up at this point, but still,
how tied up?
From what we see about how badass she is, I feel like she should have been able to probably take him because he's not a very big person.
Yeah. So
she also argues that she's not property. I think that's worth mentioning.
Yes.
I'm a human being, not property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back at the camp, the rest of SG-1 is still looking for Carter. O'Neill says that they're going to move out in 15 minutes. We don't really know where, but presumably to look for her outside of camp, because obviously they're not going to be leaving without her. Daniel's trying to be kind of defensive and is like, oh, maybe it's just a misunderstanding, but O'Neill is super pissed at this point, which I did appreciate that he's actually really trying to look out for his team despite the dissension that they had in the last episode. He really does seem to be concerned about Sam's well-being here. Teal'c says that a horse belonging to Abu is missing, and that also Abu has been found to be missing. And so it becomes pretty clear that Abu must be the one that took Sam out of the tent, since he and his horse are both gone. And here we learn that Shabadai value women for trade, especially the beautiful ones, according to the leader. And leader daddy, whose name I have already forgotten.
Mogul?
Thank you. Yeah. Says that he's going to give them horses to guide them and will help to guide them as well, because his son has not only betrayed SG-1, but betrayed himself with his actions of kidnapping Sam when they were trying to politely host these new visitors.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we are back with Carter and Abu. They're entering this next camp. As they're entering, there's a bunch of men just kind of standing around staring as they enter, looking a little bit menacing. But I also thought Carter is the most brightly dressed person there, so it seems like it's an easy place for people to look. So I don't know if they were actually being mean, menacing people, or just like, oh, look, there's an interesting blue streak through our green and tan life.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had assumed that they were looking at Sam as well just because she was a woman, but it's also entirely possible that they realized that this was the son of one of the enemy tribes.
That's true.
Leaders, and so they might have actually been sneering at him rather than at her. It's not actually all that clear, I guess.
Yeah. A grumpy looking man whose name is Turgon.
Okay, thank you, because in my notes he's super ominous looking guy, which was a lot to type out as.
Yeah.
I eventually just started referring to him as OG.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So he comes out to greet them with a big knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's how I like to greet people,
Yeah, sounds good to me.
especially in the COVID times.
Maybe, yeah,
Back
especially
up.
you could get like a 6-foot knife to just be like, this is where we're at right now.
You have my sword.
Yes.
Or I guess you could just look mean and carry a big knife, and that's probably enough for most people.
Forget walking softly and carrying a big stick. Look mean and carry a big knife. Words to live by from
Sounds
Kathy and Mary.
we are full of good advice and ideas. Just
Oh yeah, no one should ever listen to us, especially not for life advice.
The boy said he's here to trade, so he's invited into the tent. They go in the tent where Grumpy Man Turgan is being changed by women, his clothing, and he sits down and like spreads out, super casual and intimidating at the same time. The boy shows him Carter's face during this negotiation, I guess, and Carter protests that she's been abducted against her will and that people are gonna come for her. Her friends will find her.
I don't know why she thought he was going to care. Like,
I don't know.
he clearly could not give a shit that
Oh,
she
yeah.
was abducted. So I don't know why she bothered to make that argument.
He was basically like, "Shut up, or you're gonna get a beating." So
Right.
he ends up, then he like takes off her hat to like kind of have a look at her and makes her at knife point do a little twirl for him so he can look at her.
Yeah, that was gross.
And there's a point too in that where he is like makes Carter look at him, and the look on her face was so good. Like,
Yeah.
she was so
Yeah, she did a good job with that.
angry, very expressive. Like, yeah,
Face acting.
what?
Face acting.
Yes. Sorry, yes. They start to talk money. Basically, he's offering him coin for that, but a girl comes in, and the boy and girl, Abu and the girl, make eyes at each other. Her name is Naya, which that I picked up on immediately. I don't know. Everyone else's name is like, "Brr," which is a real word. So it turns out that he's there to trade a lady for a lady. He wants Naya, and he's willing to give Carter for it. But Turgon's like, no, actually, my daughter's gonna marry a desert warlord, and too bad. So here's some money, and you can take it or leave it, but I'm keeping Carter. The girl's very upset. Turgon also hits Carter, I think because Carter said something. I think she was like, how can you do that to your daughter? And then he tells her, women don't speak unless spoken to.
Yeah, that was a cringy scene.
Yeah.
Back out in the forest, SG1 and Progressive Daddy are tracking Abu and Carter. Progressive Daddy says that he will pay SG1 for her loss if they don't manage to find her. And Daniel's like, we can't really do that because we don't own her. And this is, of course, surprising to Mogul.
Yeah. Mogul.
Thank you. I should have actually written his name in my notes when I figured out finally what his name was.
I mean, I'm not even sure if that's the right pronunciation, but whatever.
It sounds about right. Daniel says that he's heard that in their culture in the past, women were sometimes allowed to fight alongside their husbands, but apparently the rules that are in place now that suppress women's rights are meant to appease the demons that brought them to this planet from their original home planet, which of course was Earth.
And presumably the gold.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can assume that the demons are supposed to be the Goa'uld here. Teal'c asks why they don't change the laws since the demons are gone. So I guess this is one of those planets that the Goa'uld have abandoned because it's not helpful to them for whatever reason. And so Mogul says that he thinks that men just like the fact that even the lowliest man is a chief among his women. So apparently it's all right for them to have multiple wives in this society. So Daniel wants to know if this is the reason why the leader only has one wife. And he says that even though his people see it as a weakness, he makes it clear that the reason that he's only ever taken one wife is because he loves her.
Aww.
Yeah. It's adorable.
Yeah.
Not that cute because he still allows multiple marriages to happen, but I guess we're supposed to find it cute.
Well, I mean, he's so progressive though. Like he even was like
so progressive.
Dialed right into like the problem with the power and the oppression is that people want to feel powerful, and like he knows what's up.
Yes.
But
yeah, at least he realizes it. He might realize that culturally it's not the right time for it to change, but he at least realizes change needs to happen. So I guess that's a good first step, even though he hasn't actually acted on it.
Yeah, well, it's weird because they seem to have very like rigid laws. So making any kind of change, like flouting those at all, I feel like would be a huge change for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just not there yet.
Right.
Which might just be what you just said, so.
Yeah, kind of. Close enough.
And then we see Abu sneak back into Turgon's camp, and he heads straight for Naya's tent to have a little chat with her and tell her that she needs to come away with him this evening and that she should meet him, that he listened to the wind, and that's what's going to happen. I don't want to say they made plans because he just tells her to go meet him at this tree, but basically they're making plans, like if she wants.
She makes it a little unclear as to whether or not she actually plans to join him, but yeah, that's kind of the takeaway, is that he's attempting to get her to run away with him.
Yeah.
So elsewhere in the camp, Targan wants to know what Sam is capable of doing. He's asking her about like sewing and cooking, and Sam's like, I don't know how to do any of that garbage. So he's like, well, then what can you do? And she says that she's a scholar and a warrior. She does men's work for a living. And he tells her that he raids tents and slaughters men and trades women and children. And he is feared. And because of all of this, he has the allegiance of 22 tribes. And so good for Carter for not really standing down to him at this point, because she's like, well, then why do you have to sell your daughter just to make it 23 tribes? He threatens to kill and torture her, and disgustingly, Sam apologizes. I can't say that I would do any different in this situation because it's a really bad situation she's in, but I was still annoyed that they wrote that into her lines, that she demurely apologizes and says, I'm sure you know what's best for your daughter.
Yeah. She's doing what she needs to stay alive.
Right. But I'm still annoyed that they wrote it into the script that way, even though in real life, it's, you can't fault her for it, but still cringy to me at the moment. And we end the scene with Targan saying that the spirits have brought her to his camp to teach her how to be a woman. Yeah. Agree.
Super gross.
Agree.
Yeah. Or the next thing we see is Carter is out chopping some veggies, I guess. I think it's veggies.
The next thing we see is Sam's amazing cleavage. Because as she's learning woman's work, we get a nice shot of that.
So that's fun, too, that they have to be covered from head to toe, but they need to show their cleavage.
Yeah, and I was wondering if this was like an intentional decision as they were doing the filming to show that, look, Carter's being feminine and cooking. Let's also make her extra feminine by showing her cleavage. Because it was like prominent in the shot.
Yuck. Well, apparently I just didn't notice that. So I was like, ooh, veggies. What's she cutting? It looks like veggies. I think it's veggies. So Carter's chopping her vegetables, and in the background, Naya is a hot mess and is really upset. And she is whisked away by literally all the women that are out there into a tent.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird that like they all just stop and take her away for.
I guess she's the daughter of the chieftain, so maybe that's plays into it. But at the same time, the chieftain's like send her off to get married in a few days, so who knows? But anyway, they are very concerned and they take her away, which leaves Carter alone to slip a knife into her dress and attempt an escape. So she grabs a horse and gets the hell out of there, but is caught by guards that are stationed outside the village. Perhaps for just this reason.
After Sam's been recaptured, she's brought to the leader, and they found her knife in her clothing, and they turn the knife over to him, and he says that the women who were trying to teach her how to be a woman now have to be punished because of her bad actions. She insists that they beat her instead because it was her that was acting badly. It wasn't the fault of the women that were looking after her. And he says that he likes spirit and horses, not women. And then, of course, he forcefully kisses her, which is gross, and says that you belong to me and that she will have to be obedient or suffer far worse than a beating.
Ugh.
A few seconds later, we learned that that was actually Naya's mom that he was just about to whip with his cat o' nine tails that he had. So he had ripped the shirt open of the woman and had like picked up this cat o' nine tails. And yeah, that was Naya's mom, apparently, that he was about to beat into oblivion. So Naya thanks Sam for stopping her father from beating her mom, and says that really her father's a good man who only beats women that deserve it. And Sam is like, that's not a thing. Like, women don't deserve to be beaten no matter what they've done. But Naya's like, well, everybody has enough food and enough water under his rule, so we really have to do whatever he wants. Sam wants to know why she's going along with this marriage when it's clearly something that Naya does not want. And Naya says that she's not free to choose, so she basically has to go along with it. Sam says that eventually, if anything's ever going to change, somebody needs to learn how to say no. And Naya says that she wants to say no and asks Sam if she will help her. And then they shake hands on it.
I feel like Sam is encouraging somebody to basically to kill themselves. I mean,
really?
I know
I
that
didn't
doesn't
get that.
happen, but well, not in that way. Like she's not trying to, but like going against her father is basically if SG1's not there, is going to be a death sentence for this girl. And like, it's super risky. It just I was like, wow, you don't have any like. I mean, she does. She obviously has like a stake in this because she's also his prisoner, but
she's not literally asking her to kill herself, but she's essentially asking her to become a martyr.
It's just it's just a lot. And
absolutely. It's pretty dark and heavy at this point.
Brave ladies. Then we were back with our boys. They've tracked down the camp where Sam is being held, and Mogul says this place belongs to a man who kills for pleasure and takes no prisoners. They're discussing how to go about getting Carter
there's
back,
not a chance in hell.
Says if they just go in there, that it'll start a war, and Turgan will kill everyone in Mugul's group, the Shavadai. There we go. So he asks, can we wait till morning and request a trade? And Teal'c's like, what's going to happen to Carter if we wait till morning? And he's like, oh, well, I forget exactly what the wording is, but basically he's going to rape Carter. And or possibly kill her, given this is Carter.
Target. He said that bad guy will partake in his newest pleasure.
So gross. But so O'Neill's like,
there's not a chance in hell.
No, we're not fucking around. We're going now. So they go into the village. Then we flip to Carter for a quick sec, who glimpses the team and looks a little happy and takes the opportunity to start a little fire. As a diversion for Naya to escape.
Right. So the guys are greeted pretty peacefully at first, and they are brought to Turgan's tent to discuss how they might be able to get Sam back. O'Neill asks Mogul how much he's okay with spending, and so Mogul offers $350 since they had paid apparently 300 gold or coins or whatever denomination they're using for her. And then he ups that to 400. O'Neill, even though he doesn't actually have any money that's recognized on this planet, then chips in offering 500, which I thought was pretty funny. And Turgan wants to know why they specifically want her when there are so many other women that he could sell them for so much cheaper. So Daniel randomly decides to talk about how she's not only a warrior, but a shaman, and helps the Shabadai to find water and know when to plant and where to plant, and that she is a chieftain and that her people need her. I don't know why he felt the need to do that.
It was super baffling because he like laid it on super thick, and I was like, wow, you're really just upping her value. Like if you wanted to get more out of this trade, like
that could have backfired majorly. I was like, what are you doing? That's going to make him want to keep her.
He's just an archaeologist. What does he know about negotiation?
Fair point. Definitely should not be a hostage negotiator for any police departments when he gets back home.
No.
So then Turgan says, well, you have nothing that I want. And of course, because O'Neill just loves firing his gun at shit, he fires it into the air and waves it around at Turgan and is like, look how great my weapon is. Don't you want this? So now Turgan has a gun.
One gun.
One gun.
One gun.
One gun.
Did he ask any questions about this?
Yeah, well, I think that's the joke, is it's only one gun, and also it has no extra bullets. So O'Neill does point out as they're like fleeing the village that there's only 5 rounds in the clip, and as they exit, Turgan is firing it into the air. So it's pretty clear that there's not going to be 5 rounds in there for very long.
Yeah, it's one of those like, oh, super dumb primitive.
Yeah.
We're so smart. Like
Exactly.
we outsmarted the foreigners.
Right.
Urgh.
Yep.
It was a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
It was a lot wrong,
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, but so was stealing women, so they were both
Yes,
wrong for
it is
different
true.
reasons.
It is true. It's just like through the lens of our society,
Yes.
like the treatment of
Yes.
people of
Oh,
color.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so they're back at the Shavadai camp, and Carter is back in her SG gear and so happy about it. They reference some other mission that they went on. I think she said something like, I've never been so happy to see you guys. And they're like, oh, well, remember when you drank that stuff on P3X595? And
this is what makes us think that, yeah, maybe there actually is some more rapport than we actually have reason at this point to think there might be.
maybe Doctor is Daniel's pet name for her. I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know.
Maybe it's her middle name and she just likes to go by her middle name instead of her first name.
Samantha Dr. Carter.
Dr. Samantha Dr. Carter.
That's got to be it. So Samantha Dr. Samantha Carter. They continue talking about how Abu has the madness, and Carter's like, what? And they explain that to the Shavadai, love is madness. And then they all kind of talk about how that nobody blames Abu for any of what just happened.
Right.
Which, okay, sure.
Yeah, he's
guys
not
are-
blameless, but
Very forgiving of some really shitty behavior.
yes.
But cool.
We cut to a scene early in the morning. Everyone is asleep except for Teal'c, who's kind of keeping an eye on things, and Abu suddenly comes riding up on a horse, but he does not have Naya with him as he was apparently supposed to. Bad guys from the other camp took her back, and she is about to be stoned to death, so Abu begs for everybody's help to prevent this from happening. O'Neill's like, her father ordered her to be stoned, but apparently it is the supposed law that she needs to be stoned for trying to run away or trying to get out of her marriage or whatever they're saying that her crime is. Doesn't really matter because obviously she didn't really do anything wrong, but they're like, she needs to be stoned to death anyway. Sam is extremely insistent that they help out, but O'Neill isn't willing to risk the war that would happen if they were to actually intervene to prevent Naya's stoning. Daniel takes the point of view that they don't have a right to interfere, even though he's been interfering in plenty of other cultures on other planets already. All of a sudden he decides that this is where he's going to draw the line, that they shouldn't be interfering.
Well, it's not his wife they're going to stone, so...
This is true, yeah. It's someone else's future wife they're going to stone instead, so he doesn't need to care. Sam continues to argue, we need to save Naya. Mughal argues against saving her as well because, understandably, this is his people that we're talking about and his people would be destroyed. Abu needs to choose between the survival of one woman or the survival of his entire people, his entire race.
Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
And Abu says he cannot make that choice. Sam refuses to just leave Naya to die when the only reason that Naya broke the law in the first place is because Sam encouraged her to run away. Teal'c argues that one life for many makes no sense.
It's all about the greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
Daniel asks if there's maybe something in the old laws that can be helpful to them, and Abu suddenly gets all excited about this and is like, of course, there must be something. And so, of course, convenient plot device, Moogle can think of something in the old laws that can help them out here. Who would have thought?
Oh my god. Amazing. That's amazing. Like that, he just pulled that right out of his head, just sitting there waiting to be called upon. That one law. Yeah.
Yep, who'd have thought?
So next we flip to. We are next in back in Turgon's village, where Naya is surrounded by men holding rocks while Dad prepares to give the kill order. She asks her father to forgive she asks her father to forgive her, and he leans in and whispers, not even, barely even audibly, like, I forgive you.
Which I actually thought was pretty surprising, given that he seems like such a terrible person. I actually was not expecting him to say that.
Yeah, I was surprised, but also, like, maybe deep down he just follows the law. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the impression I think we're supposed to get, is that deep down he's not a terrible person. He's just trying to uphold the law. I mean, obviously he is a terrible person, but I think that's the impression that they're trying to maybe give us, even though I am not convinced that he is not a bad person.
Or maybe it's like a fuck you, like, I forgive you, because the next thing is stone her.
Right, yeah, he still orders her to be put to death a second later, so.
Yeah. But in the nick of time,
convenient,
the SG crew and Mogul, and they all show up.
Phew.
And they're like, hold on, we challenge this stoning. Or they say the stoning can be challenged by another chieftain.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Mogul says something like, when they're talking about what the law is, he says, like, the spirit will strengthen the hand of the just. And I was like, that doesn't sound like an applicable law. I don't know what you're saying. Like, maybe they were communicating telepathically what this law, ancient law that neither of them remembered till that moment was. Right. But it didn't. Whatever the law is, it can be challenged.
Maybe the spirit was strengthening the hand and also reminding of the law.
Maybe. But anyway, he accepts that it can be challenged, but then he's not willing, Turgon's not willing to accept Mogul as his challenger, because Mogul's an old man whose ass is going to get totally kicked. And he refuses to be put in that situation where he's doing that. And so suddenly, conveniently, since Daniel told Turgon that Sam was a chieftain, Sam takes off her helmet and is like, I'm a chieftain and I challenge you. Oh my god. And then he says, you plague me.
I missed that. Did he actually say that? I completely missed that somehow.
Yeah, he does.
That's amazing. I'm going to start insulting people with that. It's especially pertinent in these days.
Agreed.
Oh, that's a great insult. So then he says, let the spirits decide. And we move on a little while later to the fight scene. O'Neill is talking to Sam, and he's like, you've got some kind of training in hand-to-hand combat, right? And it turns out that, yeah, of course, because she's an awesome badass, she does have some hand-to-hand combat training. And it isn't until Sam gets in the arena that we realize that this is actually supposed to be a fight to the death. So Turgon pulls out his, not huge sword, but still a way bigger sword than Sam has, to start the fight. Thankfully, Sam does have a knife, so she's not, like, completely unarmed here. And it actually takes a surprisingly short time for Sam to get in a nice stab wound there.
'Tis but a scratch.
Hopefully, the Shabadai are going to share some of their amazing medicine with him, because that could end really badly for him, given that it was, like, in his mid-stomach, and that's prone to get an infection due to the proximity of the intestines there. So
that could be the start of the whole, like, trading war for trade.
It could.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It could.
The beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, it could be. Long story short, she gets knocked down, but then she gets back up again, and you can never going to keep her down. And she gets him to drop his sword, and then takes him down and has her knife to his throat. Naya begs for his life because it is her father, and even though he's a dick, she apparently loves him because that's her dad. But Sam is waiting for him to say a few things. One of those is that Naya is free, which he says. She is also waiting for him to say that they will not have any kind of war or repercussion against the Shabbatai, which apparently would be against the law. So he says that they will not attack the Shabbatai. And then lastly, he says that Sam has won and she is free to go.
Woo! Yay, knives. I don't understand the point of a fight to the death if you can just at the end be like, I'm not going to kill you.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's such a common plot device, too. So many books and movies and shows are like, it's a fight to the death until the end when the person decides not to kill the person after all, and then it's not actually.
And in general, I feel like the opponent's pretty okay with that. Like, I'm sure it sucks to lose, but, you know, they're not dead.
Right.
But and I don't think Turgan would argue, yes, you need to kill me because it's the law. But if they've been so rigid about the law up until this point, why is this a thing they can decide not to do? I don't know. And then we're back in the Shabbatai camp. Carter is all smiles.
Yay!
The Abu and Naya are getting married, and their SG1 is invited, but they are not going to stay because it is a 6-day wedding ceremony.
I would still think that Daniel would want to be in on this, given his history as an anthropologist and his interest and excitement to learn about ancient cultures that are still actually existing on other planets. But he doesn't care. He doesn't want it, apparently.
He's like, I've seen one wedding. I've seen them all.
That's fair.
Which is totally how anthropologists are.
Yeah.
So they, there's, some, goodbyes and well wishes. Daniel wishes them many sons, and Carter elbows him and is like, and daughters. And then as a final act of gratitude to SG1, Mogul, says, be free. And then all of a sudden the ladies can take off their face coverings. Woo! And there's applause, and then like a line of ladies like, hee hee hee, we're so excited.
They titter femininely.
So it's a very happy goodbye scene.
It is a happy goodbye scene. So we exit the episode with everybody returning to the gate, presumably to return home. They're talking about how helpful this new anesthesia drug might be, but that unfortunately no one can ever know where it came from. And O'Neill's all disappointed because he can't go on Oprah to talk about his amazing discovery.
And then Teal'c says, what is an Oprah?
Yeah, that was pretty good. That did make me giggle.
I enjoy Teal'c's deadpan, I don't understand your culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. So that's the episode. Kathy, did you like the episode?
I'm not super fond of this episode, I have to say. It just seemed like a weird episode in general, and then also the whole premise is super gross.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think that this episode was true to her character, or I mean in some ways it was, but like they're literally, why didn't she just escape when Abu kidnapped her?
Right.
That right there, like it didn't seem like she'd be like, let's see how this goes. Like Daniel might.
Right. Why would she hang around? She seems pretty self-sufficient. She should have been able to get away.
So I feel like it fell apart for me there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this episode either. It's one of my least favorites, probably not my very least favorite, but it is one of my least favorite episodes, and I had forgotten that it happened so early on in the series. It's frustrating to me because they spent so much time in the first couple episodes trying to show like what a badass kind of feminist superhero Carter is, and then they completely knock her down in the middle of this episode, and they do give her the chance to redeem herself at the end, but it's frustrating that they wrote her into a spot where she needed to redeem herself in the first place after having already established her as a strong female lead character. Agree.
This episode was written by a woman named Catherine Powers, who wrote a notoriously disliked episode of Star Trek The Next Generation as well. And there are actually a large number of similarities. I think her name...
Oh, really?
Her name... I think I said her name was Catherine Powers.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I said that already. I don't want to like denigrate her because there are subsequent episodes. Like I looked at her writing credits, and there are subsequent episodes of this show that I really like. So I think that in general, she's a good writer.
Yeah.
But this episode was not great. Neither was Code of Honor. Which here's my little check mark thing of things that are similar. So the Netflix description of Code of Honor of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I think is the 4th episode of TNG as well of season 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As the leader of an alien culture takes a romantic interest in Lieutenant Yar and claims her for his own to the dismay of his wife. So here's my list of similarities. So in TNG, they go to the planet because they need a vaccine that this culture has. And in this episode, they want to keep on the good side of the people on this planet in Stargate because they have maybe some anesthesia that would be helpful to them. In the Code of Honor, they say that the folks have a similar history as humans and similar humanoid form and resemble an ancient Earth culture, which obviously also happens, which is a lot of Stargate, frankly. The chief is surprised that Tasha Yar is the chief of security because she's a woman. Both includes 2 ass-kicking, short-haired blonde women. And then there's a Prime Directive like element to it where Star Trek obviously has the Prime Directive, but then Daniel's like, oh, we shouldn't get involved in this culture's laws. They both involve a culture they're visiting a culture with rigid structures and rules, and both of them, in both cases, the law is considered antiquated. They both involve a fight to the death in which a blonde woman does not intend and doesn't kill the opponent, but still wins.
So they're pretty much identical episodes, just with different characters, both set in outer space, but one is on a planet that has ancient culture, and another one is also on a planet with ancient culture. Yeah,
and
so
just
the same
for fun,
episode.
just for fun, the last point is people of color falling all over the white woman.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I hate that trope. And I did notice that Turgan said how much he liked Carter's pale skin and blue eyes, and I was like, ugh, seriously?
Yeah. That's my list.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's so many similarities. It's like she just ran out of ideas and was like, I'm just going to use this same trope again.
Maybe.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So what do we have coming up next?
So what we have coming up next, and this time instead of blindly wandering around the internet trying to find a good description, I have pulled out the booklet that came with my set of DVDs, and that is what I will be reading from.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Which I actually think matches what Hulu says, but Hulu cuts off their description, and I can't figure out how to view it on my computer. Anyway, the next episode is The Broca Divide. Returning from a planet with both a civilized and a primitive side, all but 2 of the team become infected and spread a brutal virus. Will Teal'c and Jackson find the cause, or are their colleagues doomed to become Stone Age primitives?
All but 2 of the team, so half of the team. Okay. That's a weird way to word it, but sure.
Agreed.
All right. I forgot about that episode, and as I recall, I don't like that one either. So it gives me something to look forward to for next time as well.
Yay!
Hooray! Until then, you can find us on pretty much any podcatcher that is out there. So make sure that you hit subscribe, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, whatever your preferred podcatcher might be. We're going to be aiming to release episodes every other Monday. You can email us at stargatezing@gmail.com, StarGatezing, and you can find us on Twitter at Stargatezing. If you're feeling generous, you can also find us on patreon.com/Stargatezing. I am Mary.
I'm Kathy.
And this has been Stargatezing.
The end.
The end.
So he takes the Abu, a boy.
Are you having a stroke over there?
Every time I say Abu, I just think about the monkey in Aladdin, and I'm trying not to.
Me too, and I was going to say that at some point too.
Yeah.